crafty friends, welcome back to the attic. The attic's starting to glitter, glisten, and sparkle with all the Christmas magic. Today I'm celebrating another festive moment in Teri's Crafty Christmas collaboration. I'm excited to be sharing a new project with you. But first I want to hit the highlights in case this is your first time. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because if you've been following along with the collaboration, you know you have heard all of this many times already. But let's hit the highlights really quick. This is hashtag Teri's Crafty Christmas 25. You can use that hashtag to follow along with all the collaborators. It is hosted by Teri at Sweet Pea Papers. There's giveaways, prizes, freebies, over 40 collaborators, and over 55 videos. Teri's doing a prize on YouTube and a prize in her Facebook group. All the information is down in the description box where you can go over and check out Teri's intro video where she goes over all this in more details. There's also weekly challenge videos on her channel and weekly freebies in her Facebook groups only. The Facebook groups are Sweet Pea Papers, Junk Journal Tutorials and More, and Junk Journal Paper Crafts. Go over to her Facebook groups. You can find those freebies the first 3 Sundays in December as soon as her challenge videos go up. Be sure to check out how to enter the giveaways. I'm going to put this in a screenshot right here so you can read this at your leisure. And here is the calendar. There are at least 2 videos every day. There is a link tree that's also in the description box where all you have to do is click on that day's collaborators and you can go straight to their channels where you'll find their videos. My videos were December 2nd, and I do have a playlist that I'm starting with this. Today's video, and then I have another one on the 17th, and then rounding it out right before Christmas on Christmas Eve, the 24th. So let's take a look at what we're going to be doing today. For today's video, I'm going to be creating a set of whimsical Christmas ornaments. I love journals, but sometimes I like to take paper and create other things other than just journals and planners and things I can use around my house. And I'm using the absolutely enchanting kit on Whimsical Christmas by Stacy at Crafty Dragon Creations. These designs were donated for the collaboration and they are overflowing with fairy tale charm, sparkling fairies, woodland creatures, owls, the soft vintage texture that makes this kit feel like a Christmas dream. And I thought it would be perfect to go with my Christmas ornament that I'm going to be creating. The idea for these Christmas ornaments, if you've been on my channel here throughout December, you've seen these little Christmas ornaments on my desk. I purchased these years ago. I can tell you they are probably well over 25 years old, but they are some of my favorite Christmas ornaments. They just have little vintage scenes in them. They're constructed with some kind of chipboard type base with some ribbon and then some acetate, and I thought I could recreate something similar to these using these magical images from Stacy's kit. So the first thing I want to do is take a look at what images I want to use. There are tons of images in this kit that would work well as ornaments. And also for just a journal. There are some really beautiful images in this kit. I'm not going to go over everything. The link will be in the description box where you can go over and take a look at this kit in more detail on Stacy's Etsy shop. Again, that's Crafty Dragon Creations, but it is a gorgeous kit. I'm going to be creating, I think, 3, just seeing how time allows. And I know I want to use this image here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So I'm going to just cut out a few images that are my favorites that I think would make great ornaments. If I have more time and more supplies, I may make more than 3. as I'm cutting out these images, let me tell you a little bit about what you'll need if you want to make these types of Christmas ornaments. I'm going to be using recycled food packaging, kind of like cereal boxes, that kind of thing. You will need something clear for the front. I've got acetate, but you technically could use some packing material that some of your craft supplies came in. And some ribbon. And I don't often use this to put paper crafts together, but I'm going to be using my hot glue gun because that will make it easier to construct the box part of this. And I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to be doing all these shapes or if I'm just going to stick to the box. Again, I'm just cutting out my favorite images from the kit just to see what I want to do. I've also grabbed some things from my stash. I've grabbed several of my distress mica stains. I'm going to go ahead and lay these down so that they'll be easier to mix up when we get ready to use them. I've grabbed some stickles in different colors and some Nuvo drops in different colors. I'm going to be using some The next thing I want to do is add a little bit of sparkle and splatters to these base backs. So for this red one, I'm going to use the Distress Mica Spray in Holly Branch. And I'm just going to do some splatters. I just want this to kind of be like a random sparkle. And I'm going ahead and doing this so it can dry while I fussy cut out my images. Set this aside to dry. And for this one, I'm going to use the Distress Mica Stain in Tart Cranberry. I got some really large splatters with that. I think something was wrong with my bottle, but that's okay. Sometimes those things turn into happy little accidents. Before I blot that, I'm going to go ahead and add some of the Distress Mica Winter Berry and pull in a little bit of pink to make this just a little bit more fantasy and enchanted. I'm going to go ahead and blot these really big ones because I'm going to go back over that, I think, with a little bit of the pink and see if I can pull the pink a little bit more. It's actually not too bad once you blot it. Okay. I'm going to set this aside to dry, and we'll start fussy cutting out our images. Let me go ahead and start narrowing down which ones I think I want to do, because I'm pretty sure I'm probably not going to have enough to do all of them. And I think I want to do one of these. So I'm going to just cut this in half. I think this is the one I want to end up making my little shaker box. And let's see what else. I think I would like to do this one, and this one if I have enough material. I'm going to try to cut these. I'm going to grab my trimmer and cut this one to where it's straight. I think that's going to save me time from not having to go around all these corners. I'll be right back. Finish fussy cutting out all these, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, now that I've got all these fussy cut out, I want to start adding my little embellishments that I'm going to be doing with my stickles and my Nuvo drops, so they'll have time to dry while I'm working on some of the other pieces. So I'm going to start with, I think, my stickles. And I think I want to add a gold trim around the edge of this. I love stickles. I'm not a huge glitter fan, because glitter, you know, is one of those craft materials that when you use it, it takes forever to get rid of it. It ends up in corners and crevices and cracks of your craft room that you didn't even know you had. But the stickles gives that glitter look without loose glitter everywhere. About the only glitter I use most of the time is the Tim Holtz Rock Candy, and something about that, Tim probably talks about this in his videos, and if he has, I probably missed it, but it doesn't seem to have the static electricity that other glitters do. And end up clinging to everything and getting everywhere. I don't have the science background for that as to why that is, and maybe it's just my imagination. Alright, let's set this one aside to dry. This one, I think I'm going to use, this one is going to be the one I use the shaker box with. I think I just want to highlight a little bit of this. This is Nuvo in pale gold. I think I'm just going to do a little bit. And Nuvo drops, mine are not very new, so sometimes they kind of dry up on you. There we go. I like to test them before I start squirting them out. They're designed to be self-leveling, kind of like enamel drops, but you can do thin lines, almost like you would kind of a paint pen or the fabric paint that used to come in little tubes like this. Actually, it probably does still come in little tubes like this. Haven't bought any in a long time. I just want to add a little bit of dimension. And highlights to that. Let's see. I'm gonna put these where I don't end up sticking my hand in them. And for this one, I'm going to use the red Nouveau in the autumn red. And you can tell I've got paint all over my hands where I was painting those boxes. And just add like some berries or red ornaments to this tree. And if you don't have stuff like this, you could use some colored pencils, some markers. You could leave this step completely off. These images are beautiful. I just messed that up just a little bit. All on their own. And let's see if I can clean that up, because I messed that up. And this is one of my favorite ones, so let's see. I might still be able to salvage that. Yeah, that's not too bad. These images are beautiful all on their own. So you don't have to do any of this. You could just make the ornament as is with no embellishments. And then for my last one, I think I'm gonna add a little bit of the diamond stickles in these little bubbles here in the image. And I'm also going to come back and do a few more using that blue, a few more splatters around. I'll try to keep them fairly small. Sometimes when I'm doing splatters with that mica stain, they take on a life of their own. I think I want to use, let's see, do I want to use Winter Frost or Snow Flurries? It's hard to tell sometimes in the bottle what they're going to look like. I'm going to try the Snow Flurries. And let's see if I can keep these splatters fairly small. But that is the nature of a splatter. It goes where it wants to, not where you want it to. Alright, I'm going to set these aside, let all these dry, and then we'll come back and we'll start assembling our ornaments. Future editing, Tracy here. This is the first one that I created. It is a little shaker box ornament. I learned a lot of things putting this one together. So I'm not going to show you how I put this one together. You will be totally confused because I changed things about 20 times doing this. But I did learn a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and insert footage here about how I'm going to put the other 3 ornaments together. So let's get on to doing our next one. I'm not going to make the other ones shaker boxes. I just did this one as the little shaker because it was the little snow globe. So I thought it would be kind of cool to add the shaker element to that. The other ones, I'm not going to do that. So let's move on and start doing the backing for these. The first thing I want to do is go ahead and attach my images to my packing material. And I'm doing that just with some Barely Arts wet glue. You can use any glue of choice here. I often use Aleene's tacky glue, art glitter glue, but whatever glue you're comfortable using. Go ahead and put your images down. Get that burnished down good. And I'm just going to trim this out. Alright, so now we've got all three of our bases. Just make sure all your sides are down. Make sure everything's attached well, because your side pieces are going to be attached to this main piece. So if it's not glued down to that well, your whole piece will be compromised. So what I want to do now, get that down there, is I want to start attaching my side pieces to form my box. The first thing I learned with this is the first one I did, I cut out 1/2-inch pieces. And then I realized I didn't have any 1/2-inch ribbon. So I had to take that box apart. So, with that being said, the next time I did it, I measured my ribbon and cut my sides the same height as my ribbon. So what I want to do here to make my side panels is I want to measure the thickness of this ribbon. This ribbon is approximately 5/8 of an inch wide. So that's how big I want my walls here, the height of them. So 5/8 of an inch. This is my green, so let's grab the green. Is that gonna be? Yeah. Okay. So let's start and measure 5/8 of an inch and do 4 pieces. So we got 5/8. And now let's get these cut out. I'm going to slide that up just so I don't end up hitting that. And to cut my pieces out, I like to use my mat and kind of get it as a guide. So I'm going to line that up with the line on my mat and use my ruler and my mat as my guideline to cut these pieces out. I'm going to use a craft knife, and when doing that, press down firm pressure on your ruler and then take your craft knife and just make several passes. Instead of trying to bear down really hard with your craft knife and get it to cut through that thickness all in one pass, this just gives you more control with your craft knife. So move that one over, get that lined back up, and I'm going to cut the rest of these out. Okay, so now we have our 4 pieces. And we need to get them measured for the height and width of our box. So I'm going to start with the height of the box here. And I've got 3.5. So I need 2 of these at 3.5. just going to get them lined up and try to do them both at the same time. Just to save a little bit of time, because I have been working on this most of the day. Get those lined up with that one here. Okay, so we've got our two side pieces. And now we need our top and our bottom piece. And I'm going to do these at 2 5/16. Now what I want to do is I want to attach my ribbon to the top part before I start gluing on. And the reason for that is I need to put an eyelet on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of measure out how much ribbon I think I'm going to need, giving myself a little bit of extra room. So that's probably how much I need. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself extra ribbon to work with, just so I have plenty. And now I want to find the center of my ribbon and my top piece, and I'm going to glue this onto the back here with some fabric tack. And the reason for this is I can't get my eyelet in this piece once I get it attached to the back image. My crocodile did not fit to where I could get that in. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of center that up, get that pressed down. And I'm going to go ahead and put my eyelet in this one. I'm going to use my crocodile. You can use whatever size eyelet you have that works. I have the smaller ones. So I'm going to just get this centered. I'm going to flip it over so I can see it, what I think will be center here. And again, kind of eyeball. You can measure this. Again, I'm not a huge measurer. I generally tend to just kind of eyeball things. And then I'm going to put my eyelet in. And this is where the loop, where you'll hang it on your Christmas tree, is going to go. So go ahead and get this set. And now that's ready to be glued on. So now we need to attach our top and bottom to this base image. You're going to be gluing these inside, right on top of that image. You want your colored side in here, because again your ribbon's going to get attached here. So to do that, I'm just going to run a bead of hot glue down the side of this image. Remember to put your painted side in. Get that lined up as straight as possible. And hold that until your hot glue sets. Doesn't take long. Just like that. So now I'm going to just keep working my way around. I want to do the other side here. I like to do my two long sides first and then put my top and bottom on. just worked out better that way when I was doing that first test one. You don't have a lot of wiggle room with this hot glue. It sets up pretty quick because I am using a low temp hot glue gun. A hot temp one would give us a little bit more working time, but I find the working time is not enough of an advantage to have the hot glue that is super hot that will definitely cause you some major burns. So if you are using one of those, be really careful, and I do suggest having like some ice or cold water handy just in case you do get that on your skin. I prefer to use the low temp. So when I go to put the top and bottom on, I'm going to run my bead right on the edge here. I'm not sure how well this is showing up on camera, but you get the basic idea. And if you were using wet glue, you can do the same thing. Again, you can see I'm getting this on my fingers. If this was that hot glue that's extremely hot, that would have been a really bad thing. So this low temp glue works real well for these kind of projects. Alright, so now we're going to do the same thing with this piece. For this one, what I'm going to do is I want to put my glue right on the edge in here and line it up with my board sitting, with my box sitting down. It's just easier to get it lined up since you've got that ribbon on now. Get your pieces lined up. Hold that in place for your glue to dry. And I apologize, my dog has discovered the UPS man, and he does not like anyone in our yard. So there you go. If you are using a craft mat, the hot glue will kind of stick to the craft mat, but it will pull off. If you are not using a craft mat, be sure not to glue these things to your table. And now what we're going to do is just attach our ribbon all the way around. Okay, I'm going to do that again with the Fabri-Tac. This is a pretty forgiving little project. If you don't get something lined up just right, you can always come back with a little bit of paint to cover up any area where you might not have gotten it lined up just perfectly. You could add some more ribbon trim if you needed to. I'm going to clip this. Actually, yeah, I'm going to clip this because I want to make these meet in the middle. That's going to probably give me a better look. I'm going to glue this side. You want to pull that ribbon kind of taut. And I'm going to clip this piece for a minute. And just let that set up. Clip these corners. just so that they'll glue all the way down in my corner here. And while that's going, I'm going to go ahead and try to get this. I think I'm going to cut this right here at the L, because I won't be able to line it up exactly with these letters. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. And then I'll go over this piece with that final section. Just clip this in place for a minute. Fabri-Tac does take a little bit of time to dry, so just so it doesn't slide, I like to use these little binder clips to hold everything in place. I'm going to cut that right at the L here. Add my glue. Pull that out again, and I'm going to just get that in place and grab another clip and clip that. Alright, I'm going to let this dry for just a minute, and then I'll come back and show you how we're going to put the little loop on that hangs from our Christmas tree. Right, now that we've got our ribbon going all the way around our box, this is what we've got. I did have a little bit of paint come off at some point in time. I'm going to paint back over that, or I might even come back and put a little bit of decorative trim there. Haven't decided yet. But the first thing I want to do now is put my ribbon through here to make my loop for hanging it on the tree. And I'm going to do that by tying a knot. So I want to give myself plenty of room to tie in here. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of hot glue to hold this in place. So take your ribbon, and I'm going to cut this at an angle to get it to go through that hole a little better. Just line those up, trim that at an angle, and get that through the hole like that. And then get it about where you want it, and I'm going to tie a knot. And I'm going to tie a square knot, which is right over left, left over right. Where you can see it, but it's hard to tie knots and show it on camera. But you'll end up tying it just like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue right there and pull that into place here so that it doesn't come back up. Just put a little dot. And it's probably fine if you didn't do that, but just to be safe, I just want to make sure that this doesn't fall apart later. I just want to get that tacked in there. Okay, now you can trim these off if you'd like. I'm going to trim them kind of at an angle and leave a little bit of it. I need to clean my scissors. And my fingers. I've got hot glue all over my fingers. And I'm going to leave that little bit right there. So our box is almost done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim out my acetate for this front. To do that, what I am doing is just flipping this over and taking my micron pen and tracing this out. You could measure it. Again, I'm not a huge measurer. And I'm just going to take my scissors and cut this out. Look at these clips for a minute. And then just make sure it's going to fit over your box. And this is where we're going to glue this down onto this edge. If you were using some chipboard or something that had a little thicker dimension, probably would work a little bit better. But I was using what I had and I wanted to use up recycled material. Okay, here I want to attach this to my base. I have found that it was hard to do without something to hold on to. So I made myself a little loop with just some masking tape. And that helped me hold this and push it into place. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I want a pretty decent bead of glue all the way around this acetate. You're not going to see the extra when you get your trim on there, but you want enough that it's going to hold. And then this is where it just takes a little bit of working to get that in there and get that down and pressed all the way around. Into place. And just let that glue dry. And I missed a little area right here, so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right here. And let that set up. Again, you will not see that when you get your trim on. So let that get cool. We're going to go ahead and pull off our tape, so we don't need that anymore. And now it's time to add our decorative trim around the box where you don't see the extra glue. For this one, I'm going to use this tan trim that I have because I don't want too much gold on this one, and I think just the gold loop here would be enough. So I'm going to attach this down with my Fabri-Tac, and I am going to go ahead and cut pieces. This down. I'll do the same thing on the top. This. One piece over here. And that's the one for the reindeer. So I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to put the other ones together off camera. I'll come back and show you what they look like. These are the final 4 ornaments. I did make 2 shaker boxes. The one with the little fairy shoe and the one with the little fairies with the snow globe. The other 2 I did leave just as the plain ornaments. I did add the window panes here, similar to one of my inspiration pieces. As you can see here. And I added some of the little snowflakes, also similar to the inspiration pieces here, on both of these. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not. Again, this entire project has been a part of Teri's Crafty Christmas 25, a collaboration where creators across the community are sharing festive projects all season. All the information is down in the description box. So I do encourage you to go over and follow all the other collaborators. Teri has made it super easy to follow the link tree and see who's doing videos each day. It's been such a joy to participate in, and I'm so grateful to Stacy over at Crafty Dragon Creations for donating this beautiful whimsical Christmas kit. It truly brought this project to life. So I hope y'all will follow along with all the other collaborators. The full link tree is in the description box to follow along with all their beautiful Christmas creations. Thank you, my crafty friends, for joining me for another magical moment here in the attic. These wonderful little whimsical ornaments were such a joy to make, and I hope they inspired you to create something delightful for your own holiday season. Whether it's ornaments, journal pages, or just a little keepsake full of stories and charm. If you enjoyed today's project, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and leave me a comment so we can keep inspiring each other. So until I see y'all again, stay warm, keep your imagination sparkling, and I'll see you right here again in the attic. So until next time, y'all take care.